everybody's talking about losing weight, uh, and they want more energy,
Right.
and they're elusive. Everything's elusive. So I've tried everything is is the common conversation, and I have fear of doing something again because I've let myself down so many times. And how I reverse that, engineer that is like really we want to lose weight to feel a certain way so we can experience life at a higher level. And then being able to say, hey, what if these things just didn't have the pieces that you need all the way to where we can kind of forgive that, move forward into the next phase. And these are the pieces that we need.
Hi, it's Daniel Lucas, and thank you for joining Chasing Energy today. Our guest is Tommy Snyder. Now, we're going to talk about a few different topics around mind, body, and heart optimization. He is out to create lasting fitness, and specifically through a precise metabolic navigation and a focus on abundance. Here, we're going to talk about some of his approaches to diet that he does with his clients, how they're traditionally focused on restrictions, how you can kind of get over the idea of a diet being restrictive and focus on the benefits. The first thing that Tommy does is as part of his assessment, or one of the first things is he focuses on blood sugar. So I wanted to say one or two things quickly on that, which is sugar. It affects your appetite, meaning if you're eating something that's high in sugar, it's very hard to feel full. And then the other thing that Tommy covers is how when you're going through a sugar crash, the symptoms are quite similar to a short-term depression. So when you think about after you've had the sugar, some of those effects. Now, why do I mention that? I mention that because it's about getting you to understand how these things affect you, makes you much more aware and much more likely to say, I'll pass on something that is going to be detrimental to your health. You can follow Tommy at Master Metabolic. I've put a note in here for his Instagram. There's some cool videos on there where he cooks breakfast and a few others. If you want to give him a follow, that'd be great. I would love to see a review from you. If you haven't already, please take the time to do so. I read them all, mostly because there aren't very many and it's very easy to do. So I just reread the last ones over and over, thinking of all the people out there who I'm helping. And I hope you're one of them. Thank you for taking time out to listen to this podcast. And I hope you get at least one tidbit from this. I am so excited about some of the ones that I have coming up, including Nicodemus De La Rosa, who is an ultra runner that I've admired and been friends with for a long time because of I had actually hired him as a coach. And so I'm looking forward to bringing you that podcast as well. Reach out to me with any questions or topics or comments or even guests that you think I should have on my show. Have a great day, and thank you for joining Chasing Energy. Tom Snyder, thanks
Yes,
for being
sir.
on Chasing Energy today. I really appreciate you making time to do this, man. Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you have a very powerful message of sharing health and wellness and mindset. It's a very multifaceted approach. You started off at 24-hour fitness and as a personal trainer, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm guessing there was a tipping point where you said, I want to help people at scale. It's actually kind of hard to help people when you're a personal trainer beyond just very little small successes. So I'd like to hear, the first thing I want to ask you is, what was your tipping point that you said, I can do this at a greater scale, making a bigger impact on people's lives?
Absolutely. Well, back then it was the superpower of all gyms, and so it was very easy to create abundance in that and have a lot of test subjects. And so I found that the perspective of people, what they were coming up with, was the same all the time, and it was all environmental. Um, working with the body is usually about 30%, 20% of what you need to do, and food was off, mindset was off, perspectives that are created by culture was off, and they were looking for this thing which was what I call freedom and feeling exponential, and that was all missing.
Okay,
So
so what you're saying is the approach to that uh, was one dimensional. It just was taking on one angle of the persona of all the factors that are involved in people having a life of what you call freedom.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would see, 20 people a day, and so it would just be consistent across the board. So then, um, because I was the top, the other guy that was the top, because I was in California, was in Utah, and him and I created a system where everything was about the metabolism
Yeah.
and then also healthy accountability. So then that's when I started really realizing that that's not the way. And once I shrunk my schedule and stopped seeing people 3 times a week and just one, and then creating healthy accountability with taking body fat, which nobody was doing 20 years ago, and then also weight, and also just working with their stuff on a weekly basis to be able to evolve nutrition, exercise, and mindset. Then everything opened up.
Mhm. Right, Ben. So from there, I think you went to a supplement business. Is that correct?
Uh, no, no, we had our own company,
Okay.
and we did have our own supplement company as well. But
Uh-huh.
yeah.
When you get clients, what is the most common goal? Do most of them come to you with something along the lines of I just need to lose like 20 or 30 pounds, or give
Mm.
me an idea. If you quantify, say, the top three categories of why people come to you, what are they?
Everybody's talking about losing weight, uh, and they want more energy.
Right.
And they're elusive. Everything's elusive. So I've tried everything is the common conversation, and I have fear of doing something again because I've let myself down so many times. And how I reverse that, engineer that is like really we want to lose weight to feel a certain way so we can experience life at a higher level. And then being able to say, hey, what if these things just didn't have the pieces that you need all the way to where we can kind of forgive that, move forward into the next phase. And these are the pieces that we need.
Yeah, it sounds like you're referring to getting away from like a shame-based motivation, right? Where it's beat yourself up, get back on the thing, and no pain, no gain, and stuff like that. So the most common goal I'm hearing is I've been there, done that, and I want to get. I heard two things: lose weight and have more energy, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and thus the name of this podcast, by the way. But uh, when you meet with a client. And I know you offer an initial consultation to people who want to give it a try.
Hmm.
It's by the way, the website is mastermetabolic.com. And when you meet with people, what part of your assessment tells you of how much you can turn up the dial up or down on the amount of willpower required?
Mm. Well, I go through an assessment of goals, but I break it down into past, present, and future.
Hmm.
What your perspective is on your best self previously. And I put them in a zone of, when you see yourself in a mirror or a picture and you don't really resonate, but you have this idea of like what your best self is and you're trying to get back to that. And so for us is like painting that picture, understanding what their idea of that is, and then getting the present. And then in the future, I tell them to release all perspectives of that I couldn't do something in the past.
Hmm.
And then I want you to open up the dream. And so if you could create whatever that is, lifestyle, body, and you could do that on a computer, then what would that be? And so then I see like what the gaps are in between.
Hmm.
And then in that future self, you can see them light up to where there's nothing left but what they actually really want.
Hmm.
And everybody's at a different level. So my ability to adapt and meet them where they're at is most important. And that's usually based on lifestyle of like what they do for a living and their schedule, how many kids, what they like to do in their free time. And then I alchemize that, put it in the goal tracker, and I give them the timeline, and then I show them the complete perspective of all the things that they need. And by the end, there's no questions, and they're just nodding their head.
Yeah, okay. I think so. What I've heard there was you look at their availability of time, their current obligations to their family. So you can basically say something along the lines of, based on what I'm hearing here, you have 2.5 hours a week for me to play with, right? Or something
Hmm.
along those lines. And this is the workouts that's going to fit that.
Hmm.
Um, My curiosity there was when I talk to people, there is a dramatic difference, depending on who I'm talking to, of course,
Mhm.
with uh, the amount of runway that someone needs in order to sustain it. Now, I mean, that's part of why I'm sort of backhanded complimenting you on having an eight month program, right?
Mm.
Um, which automatically takes you out of the yo-yo group,
Mhm.
right? And I'm referring to yo-yo diets or yo-yo fitness things, but the studies say that 5 weeks and 2 days is the average amount of time from start to finish that an American can stick with a diet before they quit. Uh, which I think is actually pretty accurate. When I think of most of the people who thought, keto would be a magic button, or this would be a magic button, or Weight Watchers, the you and I both know, Tommy, that uh, restrictions take a toll,
Mhm.
right? And if you're living a life where you're counting every calorie and you're on this particular program, it's going to have to take a toll somewhere. So I was just sort of wanted your ideas and insights on when you look at the path to get there. For example,
Yeah.
uh, not for example, I looked at your program and the first few weeks, it doesn't really mention a caloric deficit, right? Or it doesn't, it's more about getting, getting control of your blood sugar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. So let's start with that. What are some of the top tips you give people on getting control of their blood sugar?
Mm. So it's definitely eating enough and feeling safe about it because everybody's
Mhm,
programmed to eat less,
mhm,
which goes into that punishment state, and that's what they don't call freedom, and they think freedom is like eating a little bit here, but then eating a lot somewhere else.
yeah.
And if I can make sure that their body is fed entirely, and that's with good food combinations and all the things that they need, I can transfer and give them like foods that they would deem as unhealthy by those combinations because they're still stabilized, the energy is super high, and then
Mhm.
that's what weeds out the minimization.
Yeah. So give me an example of ones that they would disassociate with being healthy that you recommend to them to get their blood sugar under control.
It could be like I really like to trick people into being healthy, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And so it could be waffles, peanut butter, and sausage, right? Or pizza, or tacos, or whatever it is that they think that could be not healthy. And then I make that healthy, making sure the ingredients are good, making sure the assimilation is great. So I can have somebody at like on muscle gain at like 3,500, 4,000, 4,500 calories, staying lean and building, anywhere from 1.5 to 2 pounds of muscle a week. And they're doing it, and their energy is rising, they're satiated, all that. But
Mhm,
that's not fat loss. But even on fat loss, their calories are still pretty decently high, um, and they almost question it before it happens. But
mhm.
then 2 3 days in, they're realizing their energy is great. They're not bloated, and all the things are happening.
When you're doing the blood sugar now changes, let's say you're getting them off the highs and lows.
Mhm.
I'm going to guess they're not actually losing weight at that stage, is to preface them so that they can lose weight later a lot easier because they're not subject to the blood sugar.
Usually losing weight because all of a sudden the body like is like, oh, finally I have what I need,
Is it?
and it,
Yeah.
it just sheds. But there is some muscle gain that happens in that time period. So usually it's happening at the same time, but there's a ceiling for that. So for me, just being able to know there's a 0.8% average that I guarantee every week, and so if it's different than that, then I just ask quality questions to be able to
Yeah.
get to the point,
Mhm.
and then that's how we get to that next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do a quick ramble on blood sugar. I think probably one of the most underestimated things, in my opinion, as far as repercussions of blood sugar. Most people know when they crash, like, or at least when they're aware what a blood sugar crash is. If they feel it, whatever, 60 minutes after the dessert or whatever.
Yeah.
The part that I feel is neglected, Thomas, is that I've noticed if you have dessert after lunch or you have some ice cream after dinner, the next day your body starts searching for that same hit around the same time.
mm,
So it's not just the crash, it's the repercussions of like 24 hours later, you're still kind of shaking it off. Now,
mm,
that's my opinion,
mm,
but I've just noticed even with myself, I don't eat nearly as much sugar as I used to because I noticed like even 2 days later, I'd be like, man, I feel like I need something sweet in order to go to bed.
mm,
So I think blood sugar is actually, most people are aware that it sucks in the short term, but they don't understand what it does to you 1 day, 2 days afterwards. There's like a ripple effect.
yeah.
And of course, I'm not talking about fruits, whole fruits and things like that. I'm talking about ultra processed. So with your average weight loss client, I want you to think about your average weight loss client.
Mm,
My question is when we'll use the example we talked about a minute ago, the 2.5 hour window.
yeah.
You've got 2.5 hours. Generally, let's say how many pounds overweight is your average? I want to lose weight client, like maybe 30 or 50,
I would say 40 to 100.
40 to 100. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say someone wants to lose 50 pounds. What percentage of their time in that 2.5 hour window do you uh, assign something like zone one, which would be like brisk walking versus strength training versus say cardio zone two and above?
Um, I want to clarify the question. So
Mhm.
eating is usually about 3 hours. But the like, I'm confused about the question as far as.
Sure. So let's say that I want to lose 50
Mhm,
pounds and I'm one of your clients, and I tell you, I've got 2.5 hours to exercise a week.
yeah.
What, if you broke up that 2.5 hours, what percentage of the time are you going to say brisk walking versus weightlifting versus cardio,
Mm,
traditional cardio, spin bike or whatever?
beautiful. Yeah. So most people, I tell them like as soon as I implement the food, your blood sugar is good. We can do minimal to start. So I focus on it could be like if they're not exercising at all, I do 20 minutes a day, 5 6 days a week, and really it's about the allotment of time so that we can fill it up with whatever we need. And so the average amount of weight training that we're supposed to have as far as resistance goes is half our life. So on the low end, like I try to work them up to 3 days. But usually by the time they're at 3 days, they're just hungry for more because their power is increasing.
Mhm.
And then I can move them into like whatever they choose based on their environment. Um,
Yeah.
since since weight training burns 48 to 72 hours after, and cardio burns 5 to 7 hours after, I pepper it really well
Yeah.
and make sure they're not over exercising. So most of my clients don't lift weights past 45 minutes, but it's like super intentional. And then everything about the reps and the time under tension as far as tempo goes is defined, so there's no guesswork. And also like our culture puts too much exercise on someone before they're ready for it,
I completely agree.
right? And it becomes more pain and punishment. And so
Mhm.
reverse engineering that and being a little softer as far as the opening point is huge. And then they have that space to play around, and then they have that confidence, and then they're going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. As well said, Thomas. Well
Thank you.
said. I like the peppered part too, where you're kind of sprinkling it in on over here and over there. And there's a lot to be said for uh, when someone finds a hobby they enjoy, right?
Mm,
Where you go, hey, you actually like cycling. Well, then we're going to factor that in because when people are fulfilled when they're doing a particular exercise, it's a lot easier to assign it versus, oh my gosh, if I have to get on a rowing machine, I'm going to kill myself type thing.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about some of your core principles and what that you basically build your foundation on that you share with your clients.
Mhm. Yeah, so I break it down to a point where there's nothing, there's no ambiguity. Like there's certainty, and you understand the balance going in. And we talked about before the podcast about me being dynamic and being broad in the approach. And I've broken it down to 5 pillars. And so usually I'll go through the five. I'll use my hand and I'll take you through a
Yeah.
journey. But
All right.
the first one is nutrition, and it's the biological relationship and the emotional relationship and how it's always spinning. And so mastering that understanding is very important to fill up the body, and then also be able to serve whatever the experience is, to where we still get our goals, and then that evolves as we go. Number two is exercise, and exercise being like reversing the punishment perspective and being able to do it for yourself and to be able to raise your energy.
It's a gift, man. It's a gift. It's not a punishment.
Exactly. And so mastering those two together is what really is misunderstood. And if usually in our society, there's a nutritionist, there's a personal trainer, there's a mindset coach, everything's spread out to where it's very hard to put everything together. So I'm a master at helping people understand that at first. The third thing is mindset. So after 90 days or so, when we release the scarcity in the body, the alarm system's going off, then we have to build on abundance. So very rarely do people get to that point, and we don't know how to do that because as soon as the scarcity comes off, it's like, oh, what do I do now? I made it. And at that point, they could maintain for a certain amount of time. So I shift the mindset, I tap back into the why and tell them where they're at.
Elaborate on scarcity versus abundance. What is that in a literal sense? What does that mean?
Yeah. So uh, scarcity would be anything that is fear based, anything that's not enough. And in the whisper, what I say is that people always have, oh, if I could just lose 10 pounds, I'd be okay, right?
Mm.
Which is minimization. So they're already manifesting that. So for me, I already know that that's going to happen with everybody, and it's going to happen between 10 and 12 weeks because they've got the rituals down. They're in the flow, and they feel powerful. So as soon as someone moves into the abundant state, which is they don't have any of those shackles anymore, and they know what feeling great is, and they
Okay, so
relax.
abundance is like making a self and public profession uh, of what it is you intend to achieve and that you're able to achieve it.
Yeah, yeah. With with,
Okay,
with no
so when
anchors,
you say with
with
what?
zero anchors that hold them back.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So getting away from which by the way, I think the words we use are more powerful than most people give them credit for, especially the word can't. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But when I'm making up an example here, but Thomas, you wouldn't understand. I have a thyroid problem, and everyone in my family is overweight, and I'm always going to be overweight.
Is
That's just the way it
yeah.
is. So that would be an example of a scarcity mindset of I can never be that, and I'm feeding that loop. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. And once you release those, it's like you get to see what else is there, and then we get to say, hey, that isn't true anymore. And I already
Mhm.
know it's not true, but I'm sitting with them until they come up with that on their own, and then
Yeah.
go from there.
So on this is one thing where we overlap, Thomas. Where both of us have a passion, and that is I started this podcast a year ago because I got really frustrated that with the idea that after 40 you're done. You're basically putting you stop exercising, you just basically stick to walking and maybe spinning here
Hmm.
and there, and that you're more or less just gonna haul your way to
Hmm.
retirement, which I think is a very poisonous ideal because people drink that Kool-Aid. Well, I'm not as young as I used to be, so I can't be doing around and touching weights anymore and da da da. Um, but the point is that it comes from a toxic culture that says as soon as you're not in your prime, you can do a whole you have no business being out there, essentially, and that you should just accept the way things are. Now keep in mind, I live in one of the most obese states in the United
Hmm.
States. So this is something I'm particularly passionate
Yeah.
about. So going scarcity to abundance, what else you got for us, Thomas?
Yeah, and I love what you said about the programming. I call it programs and codes. And if we
Mhm.
realize it's a program, we can rewrite a new code. And being old
Yeah,
is literally a code because it's not true. Like I
yeah. It's your job to debug it.
exactly. So, and then they can find it on their own. So I think it's interesting how like literally all the codes that we're receiving from our environment are the opposite of what is true, and that inspires me to wake up every day which is nice. So I
Mhm.
think going back to like the two goals is like freedom and feeling exponential, and having anything that doesn't align with that needs to be looked at and helped. That's nourishment.
Let's talk about freedom. Jocko gets credit for this statement, although I've had to correct people. I'm like, Jocko didn't come up with that, which is discipline equals
Mm,
freedom, right? And it actually goes back to the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective
mm,
People. But the idea there is that, for example, if you're disciplined enough to practice the piano, you have the freedom to play the
mm,
piano,
mhm,
right? And this is where I think being healthy gets a bad rap, Thomas, because I when you get to a point that the free donuts that come on Friday mornings at the office, you're no longer tempted by
mm,
them. It's seen as, oh, you don't have the freedom to eat this donut. And the truth of the matter is we accept that freedom. We look at it and say, I just don't want it, or I don't like the way it makes me feel, or whatever. To me, saying no to a lot of things is what gives you the freedom to do the things in life that you really want
mm,
to do.
mhm. Yeah,
Now you're welcome to contradict me. I didn't come up with the 6 pillars or
yeah,
5 pillars or so.
yeah. Yeah, discipline to me, it goes back to unhealthy accountability. And a lot of people that experience discipline receive like toxic masculinity. It's like the football coach that yells at you and puts you into the ground, and
Yeah.
or uh, like our parents that like didn't allow us to be us in the moments that we needed to, and then like projected onto us as far as like us not being disciplined enough or whatever that means.
I will shame you into growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is some good things around that, but if you don't understand the toxic side, then that's going to be a challenge for us to move forward. But
Mhm.
I like to help people understand what healthy accountability is, so that they can be able to move into healthy discipline. And I think those are unilateral, and I think
Mhm.
it's being gentle, and not a lot of people in fitness. There's a lot of meathead mentality, and which is
Yes.
not gentle. And so for me, being able to move and shake with whoever it is and be able to have the empathy and compassion for them of where that comes from. And then they just start to realize like, oh, well, if I start with my victories, simple as that, and I'm pointing out what I'm proud of, then I can safely move into something I want to evolve
Mhm.
versus move directly into something I want to evolve, which we're trained to do. And immediately, if you have 10 good things happen in the day and one bad thing, you're going to remember the bad thing first. And at that point, we're scrambled, right? We're stressed out. We're again in fear because we're not enough. And then it's very hard to take action continuously.
Yeah, so I came up with the term while you were talking based on your words there, and I'll call it meathead masculinity, which is I'm gonna basically yell out enough and shame you enough to encourage you to change. I think part of the draw there, Thomas, is people want to be sort of shaken out of the rituals that they're not
Hmm.
proud of, right? But the unfortunate side of that is, even if you say, okay, I'm going to go to this boot camp and this guy's going to yell in my face for I signed up for 6 weeks, it's like that is a very short-lived window of, okay, now that this guy's in my face and yelling, I feel bad while he's here, but what about when he's not here? Right? I'm going to do whatever I want, or I'll secretly get revenge for him making me do 100 push-ups. I'm going to eat an extra donut today or
Yeah.
whatever. The point being, I can see how it appeals to people because they want to be sort of shaken at their core with the accountability of now I have to do
Mhm.
it. But the problem is that's not sustainable,
Yeah.
right? In statistics, they call that the Hawthorne effect, which means people always do better when they know they're being watched, right? But they've also found that that improvement doesn't sustain long term. It only works for a little while. So if I go to an office and I say we're putting cameras and watching everybody work, it's only a matter of time before basically that benefit
Hmm.
wears off.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think, when we go back into, like you said, when we're solo, uh, what voice is driving us? And when client gets to a certain point I teach like high levels of fulfillment, and I break it down, and I have this whole structure for it. But when we know how to be like fulfilled and really lit up versus getting short dopamine spikes, like that helps us
Yes.
long term. But I think knowing like where the voice is coming from, is it our highest self? Is it our inner child? Is it,
Yeah, you're referring to like the cognitive version of blood sugar
yeah,
spikes, right? I mean, it's these up and down roller coasters that are easy come, easy go,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah. And so if you teach the buckets like, oh, is this my culture self speaking, which is just running on autopilot? Is it my inner child that's being rebellious because I don't give it enough time and what it needs? Is it my higher self that's really like mothering or fathering me, like to guide me? And or is it my ego? And so for us, like being able to decipher like what that is and feed them as they need, then they can decipher what the difference is between that and allow that to lead them. Plus they feel good in their body at the same time. And then naturally truth comes in and heals it. So that takes time though. That's one of the reasons why I don't work with anybody at under 8 months, because 12 weeks
Yeah.
and out, you're never even going to be able to figure those things out.
Yeah, I'm not a popular person either, Thomas, because I always say when people say, and you've heard the phrase, people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in
Yeah,
a year, right?
yeah, that's so true.
Um,
We all have that.
well, selling, yeah. I think I'm not I'm not a marketing specialist, but I think part of your marketing approach should be if you're tired of signing up for these Instagram get in shape in 30 days, and you're ready for something
Yeah.
real. That would be a very good
I
approach.
heard a really cool
Um,
code that kind of heals that perspective. It was I think it was a podcast I was listening to, but he was like, we're all taught to like win or accomplish in short periods of time. And but then when we don't do it, we automatically feel like we failed, and then we quit and we move on to something else. And he said, what in nature grows fast? Nothing.
yeah.
At that point, changes everything.
And also what in nature can you rush to grow? It's like a flower blooms when the flower blooms,
Ex-
man. I mean, it's
exactly. Exactly. So I think just coming back to that point is tough, but I feel that that's why most people diagnose themselves if they can't like so fast, and that's not fair.
yeah. All right. What else you got for us, Thomas, on the
Yeah.
principles?
So for me, I think understanding the balance of the way everything works, and I think that's important. Step by step, giving yourself that time is also important. Being able to like go through healthy accountability, huge. And you talked about sugar earlier, and I like to, it'll always come up, and I'm sure it comes up for you when you work with somebody in the first 90 days. And
Hmm.
people can have fortitude to be able to get away from it, but they're not actually working with it at that point. They're just trying to get out of the scarcity portion of like, oh, if I do this, I'm all in, and I can't feel good. And so I teach them about the history of it and why I believe how it came in. It really started. I'll go into it really quick. It started in the '80s when they took out fat in foods, right?
Yeah. Took out the
Yeah, and then
fat.
they put it
Yeah.
in, and then uh, you, I know.
Snack wells was one of those, and they're full of sugar, and that's why you're hungry when you eat a
Yeah, so it
pack
was a
of them.
magic trick, and then nobody knows like where it came from, and then on top of that, the love your body movement came out no matter what size you are. And then like that
Yeah.
took people out of like the way they feel, and so they couldn't feel like the changes happening, and then that multiplied over time. It's obviously happening a lot these days. And then the three things that happen in the body that I talk about that I've never really heard anywhere else is one, it's the shortest high of any drug, so 1 second it's gone, and then also the most profitable drug in the world. And then the number two is it blocks leptin, the hormone that tells you you're full. And then number three, the blood sugar spikes so high and drop so low that it mimics the same feeling as depression. So then people do it
Yeah.
over and over and over again, trying to chase that,
Yeah.
and but they never hit the mark. So for me, it's like, okay, well, what were you looking for in that moment? And then it's always fulfillment. right?
Yeah.
And or celebration or whatever it is. So that boredom,
Boredom is a
yeah.
big one.
And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like, hey, we're either not acknowledging ourselves and proud of ourselves in some form because we're trying to celebrate and feel proud. And then number two, it's usually connection. So fulfillment, that's what led me into fulfillment, and then really diving in to what our human needs are. And I break them, they're broken down into six. And so really diving, helping people understand their ranking of their human needs at that time, and then working with the buckets of fulfillment there, whether it's growth, love, connection, uncertainty, which is adventure, certainty, which is safety and like feeling strong. And to me, it's like I just ask them, what are you missing in this when you're reaching for this? And then also like what is the balance? What is the new balance that you're figuring out? Because like obviously sugar's not going anywhere, but being able to discern based on the higher levels of fulfillment and how you feel, but then working it back to where, oh, this is kind of a short term thing. So I mean, you mentioned donuts, so oh, I know there's seed oils in there. I know it's fried. I know there's no nutrients, so I know it's going to last 2 days in my gut, and I'm probably going to gain a little bit of weight and then come down again. So therefore, all of a sudden I know because it feels I'm trying to get a hug, but it's because I haven't had hugs in a while, whatever version that was.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, so then
cortisol.
then all of a sudden it becomes the perspective changes, and one of my favorite flows is perspective equals belief, which fuels action. The only way to change an action is shift to perspective, and so if that's constantly
Mhm.
happening in incremental ways, that's what kind of leads us back to the freedom and feeling how we want, and and getting the
Yeah.
abs if that's what you want to.
Yeah. So these are great points, Tommy. Where can people find you? What is your
Yeah,
Instagram
it's
handle?
Tommy TOMMY underscore Snyder SNIDER. Master Metabolic,
Hmm.
just as it's spelled, is our Instagram too. And
Hmm.
yeah, you can reach out to me. Like you said earlier, I give one free session to anybody that sees me, and we
Yeah.
figure it out.
Absolutely, man. Man, I'm so grateful for what you're doing and the change you're driving. It's great to see that someone whose story of starting out at what I would call a very humble thing in the fitness
Mhm.
industry, right? Uh, the personal trainer, and then going to take this to a scale who is someone who's spent so many hours trying to change the way that people live their life and the freedom, as you say, that people can have in their life. It's a beautiful thing when you see people take control of what they own, because you can make more money and things like that, but
Mm,
health is wealth, man, and it gives you so many options to connect with the people you love and create wonderful
mm,
memories. So thanks for all you do, Thomas. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Daniel.
you,
I
man.
appreciate you having me on and spreading the word that you do. I'm all for it. Absolutely.
Thanks, man.